You see them in around here, they walk in a line, have to hold each other's hand. You have to put your hand up if you want to go to the toilet. So you got these sort of followers who never question anything they're told. So the skill of questioning gets to 18, and then they don't have that ability. And then you have our kids who question everything, and they question us, and which is what you want. What we're doing is we're growing these little problem solvers who enjoy what they do.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of the Ben Wehrman podcast. We have Sylvia and Rob Brinded today to talk to us about this really awesome new project they're working on called A Place to Be. It's fixing the educational paradigm that more and more people are figuring out is just not doing well for the vast majority of people out there. Some would say everybody. So Sylvia and Rob, thank you so much for joining me today to talk. Really appreciate you being here.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So this is the first episode I've had where there's been multiple people on a single episode. So that's exciting because you guys are such a team. I can just tell from watching the content around you guys that you really complement each other well. And this is just a great team effort here. So could you give a bit of a backstory on where you both came from and how you ended up coming together for this educational reform project that you call A Place to Be?
Well, Rob and I met in Barcelona in 2008, and we spent 11 years there. Our daughter Lima was born there in 2016. And when she was 3, we moved to the UK. And then we came to this point where, we were supposed to put her into daycare, into kindergarten, because I was also pregnant with the second one. And when we walked into this, like the best kindergarten that would bring her into the best school, I just wanted to cry, like imagining having to leave her there, and they wouldn't even let me, be with her until she got used to it. They said, no, you just drop her off and she will cry and she'll be fine. And, that's how it goes. That's when I said, right afterwards, I said to Rob, we're not going to send her into to daycare, and we're not going to put her ever into school, because I had already been reading about homeschooling and unschooling. And we just made the decision. Rob, he was a bit more, you need to go to school, and what if, and but I was for me, that was it. The decision was done, and I was kind of co-educating Rob while reading. I was sent him screenshots or some videos, or just sending him bits and bobs about unschooling. And at some point he knew this was the right decision. UK.
Yeah, so she green pilled me.
Yeah, I green pilled Rob. That's how we call converting somebody into an unschooler. We just recently came up with that term last year. Then we traveled a lot. We left UK, ended up in Madeira. But before we moved there, we had spent 2 months in Madeira to get a feel for it. We loved it. In those 2 months, I was reading Summerhill School by A.S. Neal. And I liked the idea of, children being able to just be themselves and play, and adults are there to support the kids. What I didn't like so much was that it was a boarding school, because I never wanted to felt like I need to send my kids away, and I want others to look after them or take care of them or raise them. So I had the idea of a neighborhood, because that's what I was looking for. I had a really nice upbringing. Kindergarten was awesome. I hated school, but it was like 4 hours a day. And afterwards I was just on the street playing with my friends and exploring, like not in the 80s and 90s. And that's what I wanted for my kids. But as I knew I wasn't going to send them to school, or we weren't going to send them to school, I wanted a neighborhood where there were all unschoolers. So that's when I had the initial idea. Then when we moved there, at some point I said to Rob, you know what, I really like this. I think I'm going to look into it. And Rob was very hesitant. Now, you're crazy. And it's way too big. And, so much work, so much money. How? And no. So after a few weeks or months of me just, thinking about it day and night. At some point, once the kids had gone to sleep, I sat down in the evenings on the computer to start, mapping out my plan. And that's when it started. At some point, like after a week or so, when Rob had noticed I had been doing something online in the evenings, I told him, you know what, I'm going for it. I'm going to do this. And then he said, okay. He saw that I was serious, and then he was supportive, and we started doing this together. Here's Free Madeira, the Bitcoin association. So when we had moved here, we already knew a lot of Bitcoiners. So we always, when there was a Bitcoin family, we invited them to our home, and we talked about the project, and everybody loved it. So it was very much like I could see people love it, people like the idea, and people are looking for this. I had no concrete plan. It was really step by step, and it is still step by step. But in the last few days and weeks, we've done some very important steps that has brought our project way further, because, I started this like 2.5 years ago with the idea.
Brand new. Crazy how this is it seems like I've been hearing about this for a few years, but it really has just started, and it's super exciting just thinking about the possibilities.
Yeah, Ben, went back maybe 2.5 years ago. I sat down with, a little bit before that, with Andre Losha from, the legend here. And we were having a coffee, and we were talking about making Madeira like sort of the citadel, that sort of idea of ground up movement. And he was, he has so much energy. And I was saying, we're considering doing this project. He was like, oh my God, you got to do it. It would really stamp Madeira as this sort of a location where it just pulls in more people. And I was reticent about moving the project forward because it's so massive. We started off with the idea of it being quite, a localized thing, and it grew, and we adapted to the demand of, and then the idea is, and Sylvia explained more about where it's got to, because when Max DeMarco first did that documentary with us, it's just morphed into this monster. And but Sylvia is, I saw that she was fully in, and then I was like, okay, let's do this. I think we had that conversation where it was like, if you're going to do something in this life, do something you enjoy and do something you want, even if it's kind of crazy. There's nothing there, and now we've got the investors, and it's gone from a little thing to a mega thing.
Yeah, and for the listeners that haven't heard of Madeira, just to elaborate on that, it's basically this paradise island in Portugal. I've only seen pictures and videos of it, and I am extremely jealous and want to visit very badly. But I mean, it looks like just an incredible location to build a new business, because it has this sense of independence, and it's just like a beautiful location full of nature and great people. Is that how you'd basically describe it? Yeah,
it's for us, it ticks all our boxes and more. It just keeps getting better.
It's savage. It's this kind of savage island. Like the mountains are it's like that Hawaii of Europe type thing. They go down. Incredible, world-class hiking, stunning, as you've seen all the videos, and semi-autonomous, because it's quite away from Portugal, in the middle of the Atlantic. It's still part of Europe. So, and the other thing I would say is, life reflects back at what you put out, right? So, if people come here looking for something that they don't have, they're not going to find it anywhere. I was like that for quite a while. I moved around the world, like, where's this magic, where's this perfect place? And I had to look at myself.
I'm doing that right now, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. And so when I came here, I started getting a little bit of the itchy feet a couple of years ago, and I said, I can feel that urge to Costa Rica or Mauritius or Costa Rica or El Salvador. And then I had to really, observe that behavior, because there's no end of the rainbow. And since doing that, there's so much here, and the people are so friendly, and the weather's just so good and it's part of Europe. It's crazy, as in it's not so far from both our parents. So
we find that people are extremely friendly and helpful, and they love children. And then we know a family who are leaving soon because they find the people here very unfriendly. And, that's something that, however you see the world, comes from within. So for us, it's really great. And for the kids as well. The nature is incredible. And we're at a point now where we have a piece of land where we're setting up a place to be. And every time I go there, I just love it more and more. And it gives me things that I didn't even knew I was craving and missing. I go to this land and it's quiet and there's nature around and I can be all by myself. And it just feels right. It feels good, because I used to just always do, be with people, have guests stay for weeks, and then another person, and always doing. And through Rob's help as well, I observed that behavior, that never sitting still and never being alone. And this land, it also shows me that it's so beautiful to just be, a place to be, and be alone and be in nature. And that's what we find that most people are looking for. And I think everybody needs it. Everybody who's living, the Fiat life. Some might know, others don't, but it's just incredible. This journey of learning, less is more. Just go back to basics. What you need is the sun and nature and the ocean and friends and, community like-minded, not like 100 people or 1,000 people, but just like-minded. And we have that. We have the Bitcoin community. We have the Unschooling community. We're also in the Brazilian JiuJitsu community. And another thing I like about this, because some people, they don't like islands because of this. It's so small and they get island fever, something I don't know, I don't know what it is. But I like this. It feels like a real community, like people used to live. The same way like education used to be. It used to be just community, little village, and you didn't know what was going on in the world. You just knew what was going on in your village, and you did your part and your share, and people worked from home. And not, sent the father away for 8 hours a day. And even though most Madeirans live the Fiat life and do the 9-to-5 jobs, it just feels really nice, especially because we have these communities here.
Yeah, regarding the island fever you mentioned, I grew up on an island, and I feel like I was one of the rare kids who just really enjoyed it and thought it was super chill and cool. Most people were thinking like, oh, we need to go to the city, or we need to move away somewhere, because it can be sort of isolating. But what I'm noticing is all the people who say that when they're kids, they go out to the city, and then eventually it's just a matter of time before you just crave that island again. Just go back to where it's simple. Just like you said, you have nature and good people and sunshine and good food. That's really what you need as a human. And no matter how far you venture out of those essentials and go into the fiat universe that you said, you always get pulled back eventually. It's just a matter of time. And really,
there was I remember I was speaking to this doctor I knew in Barcelona, and I was telling him, maybe Madeira or something. And he said, yeah, but you can't, but that's not real world. I remember, and I was like, what do you mean? And he said, well, your kids, university, they need to go to university. And they have, so for him, the real world was a city where their jobs are and everything. And I was like, oh, that's so, he obviously believed that, but that's, again, it's that Fiat mentality of you have to go and do and become the lawyer or the doctor. And I think he looked to me like I was like completely crazy, and that I would come around to it. But for me, I've been in the city. It's just crazy zombies on the underground, like exhausted, drinking, this cycle, and then finally you escape, or you go and retire, and then you die. I was like, no, we're not going to do that. So.
And those quote unquote fiat jobs you mentioned, like lawyer, hedge fund manager, financial engineer, all these things that people are aspiring to do now because that's where the money is. You never hear any of these educational systems telling people that motherhood and fatherhood are the most important jobs. That's always pushed completely out of the picture. And we're seeing this starting to manifest in people's mentality, how they're just not thinking about having children and really thinking long term and building their legacy, building a family. And that's something we can definitely dive into like fully at some point. But before that, I would love to just get the overall elevator pitch of what a place to be is. So if someone comes up and asks you like, so this project is like out in nature with a bunch of kids and community, but what actually is this, and how is it different from the currently modern traditional path of going to school for 20 years to start your life?
Yeah, the place to be is an unschooling neighborhood for families who raise fiat-proof children. That's the elevator pitch. And it's different because it's total freedom for everybody, not just for the parents, not just for the children. It's a community where everybody does what they want as long as they don't hurt other people. That's what I tell my children. You can do whatever you want as long as you don't harm anybody. And it's different because they love their life, they love what they do, they learn along the way. And having a foundation like this, not having to undo so many things like we have to do, still doing. I'm 40, Rob's 52, and we're still undoing the damage from our childhood and from school and all the conditioning. Our children and all the unschooled children who have the foundation of freedom, like imprinted into their foundation, of just knowing and like feeling that they can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter if they don't know how to read at the age of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or don't know how to do a certain thing, because when they're 30 or 40 or even 50, like us, like we're learning new things now, they know that whatever they want to do, they can do it. This is we're kind of putting a lot of effort and love and time into the foundation of our children, so that it's solid. Because if you see the foundation of the fiat people who grew up in the fiat world and stay in it, it's very damaged. It's not a good thing, and they come up with little solutions on top of problems. If the foundation is strong and healthy, then you won't need to fix that many problems. And talking about problems and problem solving, that's the biggest skill of the children who grow up like this. Like, we don't do much for our kids. We never entertain them. They just know, what do they play all day? They look for things to do, they experiment, and we're always around if they need help or have questions.
Well, I would say I come from all my family are teachers, so I get the odd comment, on when I'm sure someone's going to watch this on social media, one of my family members, and what we found, and I was reticent about going forward with I was the guy who was saying, yeah, but what if they don't learn to read? What if they're embarrassed? What if they're humiliated and they're like retarded? And I mean that like bread. Are we going to retard the bread? Are we going to? And it's absolutely remarkable, and it kind of shocks me every single day how advanced my children are. I have people who've spoken to them. They come up and say, "Wow, your daughter talks to me like equal, an equal," and that is like remarkable. So you have an 8-year-old girl who will talk to a 30-year-old woman or man as they are an equal. And my daughter is able to, she's self-directed. So that means everything she enjoys doing, she'll do. And then through that, she learns to problem solve. So what'll happen is she wants to send messages. Then she learns to read because she wants to, not because she has to. And whenever you force anything, just as in a free market, you create abnormalities. So we just enhance this natural process. We're there as enhancers, and for this natural thing, which is learning, for children to learn. And children learn if you force them to or not. It's just you're learning, they learn how to adapt to being forced and then passing the tests and exams. It damages them for life. That fine calibration never happens. And what we find is you're going to have Pablo Fernandez, who's a coder here, he said you're going to have two types of kids, and it's going to be these sort of advanced beings who are able to problem solve and then you've got the other kids, and we see, and I don't want to sound judgmental, it's just a system, that centralized system of schooling. They have to, you see them around here, they walk in a line, they have to hold each other's hand, you have to put your hand up if you want to go to the toilet. So you've got these sort of followers who never question anything they're told. So the skill of questioning gets to 18, and then they don't have that ability. And then you have our kids who question everything, and they question us, and which is what you want. What we're doing is we're growing these little problem solvers who enjoy what they do. So at the end, what we want is our children at the end to be able to problem solve and to enjoy what they do. And if those two things are there, it's better to a kid to graduate as a road sweeper than be neurotic. What's the
it was A.S. Neil.
A.S. Neil.
Rather raise a happy road sweeper than a neurotic lawyer or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because I work with all these billionaires or CEOs, doctors, psychologists, and everything. They're completely bereft of any enjoyment, and they live a secondhand life. It's mechanical, and then they come to me when they're 40, 50, 60, suicidal, or they're like, I don't enjoy anything. You have to retrain them. You have to melt they're so tightly wound in the hamster wheel. And so it's the value of being able to allow a child to, through free market, adapt and enjoy and find what she wants or what they want, is the most valuable thing that we can spend our time doing. And then if people want to join us, then I think that's the most valuable thing for a child.
Yeah. And on the other hand, like, you don't want to kind of retard them, let's say, mentally. I'm just going to use that word.
Yeah.
But I do want to retard them from growing up too quickly on the other hand, because now with social media and in school with peer pressure, you just see, the want to be on social media, the want to look sexy, to TikTok, be slim, to, I don't know what the boys want, but I'm just, very aware. We very much check on what they consume online. We try to teach them that we use social media instead of social media using us. That is something that I want for them, just a normal, free childhood like I had mainly. Without this peer pressure and without being programmed by social media, just, be as you are.
And we see it.
They are.
That was the only thing that we had a little bit of, we've had a lot of discussions about, is allow them to be free, but we don't put cocaine on the table. because it's a very good drug. It's, and they're very young. And if you start to observe what a lot of things, even on Netflix, it's conditioning a certain behavior. And some of it's, is good, but we don't want big corporations conditioning the children. And unfortunately, that means we limit screen time
and what they watch. Or if we watch it together, we have a chat about it if we see there's like an important thing to know. So we focus on teaching first principles, because then on top of that, again, like a strong foundation, if you go to the bottom line, the principles, then they will be able to apply them to anything they see, they hear, they do, people they come across.
Yeah, it's not out of fear. It's just like explain, like, why does that woman dress in a bikini and singing and all the and there's a devil in the background or whatever, and we just explain, right, she's trying to get clicks to enhance her business, and the only way she can do it is by wearing a bikini. There are other ways to do this, but so we try and be as honest and neutral as possible about it. But these are the things you have to keep an eye on, as well as give them organic food, so that they're consuming stuff that enhances their nature and not retards their nature.
So many tracks we could go through with this, man. My list of questions is rapidly growing, so I hope your time is flexible on your schedule.
Yes.
One thing I want to just quickly start with that you mentioned earlier is just this word unschooling. And I know most people are familiar with the word homeschooling. Are these synonymous, or is there a difference how you would define those words? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, there are, a million different shades of homeschooling and unschooling. And every single is different in the way they homeschool or unschool. So homeschooling, the term means that you follow a curriculum at home. You kind of replicate school at home. The more you let the child choose, the more it gets into unschooling, because unschooling means that you let the child lead the way. You let the child follow her or his interests, and you're just there to support. You give them a lot of freedom, like 100% freedom of choice of what to learn and how. You're just there to help and sometimes guide a little bit. But there is, even if there are kids who love textbooks and sitting down and, and listening to somebody teaching something, that doesn't mean it's homeschooling. It's still unschooling because the child enjoys it and the person found their learning style, and you just follow the child's learning style in unschooling.
Interesting. So I actually didn't know that. So it's like even further on the spectrum of just giving more freedom to the kids to really be the decider of their own destiny. And I think that's super cool. And one of the things that this is reminding me of is, I'm not sure if you know Aleks Svetski or if you've read his work, but
yeah, we met him.
Yeah,
he was over.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent. Because I know he's kind of bounced around Latin America too. So one of the theories that he puts out there that I've increasingly become convinced is dialed is how this new generation of Bitcoin kids that are being born and raised by Bitcoin families is literally going to split off into a whole different species, because
species.
Because all the Bitcoin stereotypes are involved here. They're eating tons of meat, they're getting lots of sunshine, they're out in nature, they're basically doing the opposite of everything that kids are told to in the government schooling system. And you can put on as much of a tinfoil hat as you want for why, like, the exact opposite of all these very healthy human things are pushed onto them. What do you guys think about that? Do you see this pattern as well, where like these kids being raised by Bitcoiners are just going to be like this superhuman, like unrecognizable based on an average human?
I think so too. I don't know to which degree, but I can see now that our children prefer hanging out with unschooled children and Bitcoin children than, I call it, Fiat children who go to school. Sorry.
And we say that in the most loving way possible.
Oh, no, yeah.
They are sweet and we love them to bits, and we are still good friends with all the people around the world who whose kids go to school and who are not into Bitcoin or yet. But it's just our children also choosing, that they have the freedom to play with who they want to play and, how much time to spend with, whoever they want. But we can see that they love to hang out with the unschooled kids. I mean, there isn't much time anyway. The kids, they come home at like 5, sometimes 6, and then they have homework. And usually we see them on the weekends. But yeah, it makes a different
species, and the our 2 daughters eats kind of slightly differently. They eat with us, but they eat a lot of meat. It's an animal-based diet, and my 8-year-old is strong, ridiculously strong, to the point where
she can lift me.
Yeah, she can lift her, and she's very good at JiuJitsu. I think I know Bitcoiners who send their kids to school. So just so that we're and the Bitcoiner father, let's say, oftentimes the father would probably have the kids out, but the mother keeps them in school, but not always. To be able to take kids out of school here is such so against the grain, especially in Madeira. So I understand that if the father at home is saying things like, look, you're in a system, this is how it works, doesn't matter, don't worry about the grades, you're good, and constantly questioning and talking. So that's the main input, is questioning everything and saying, look, the schooling says, don't worry about that. You don't need to know that date in history when the king got an arrow in his eye. I think that's the only thing I learned at school. But it's so on that. So however someone wants to choose, is their freedom, right? And they can send their kids to school. But if you put a kid and they're driven by what they enjoy, if you look actually at most Bitcoiner guys, like we have a lot of coders here, they love what they do. They're buzzing. They're like little kids, these fully grown coder on the spectrum types. And they're like, oh my God, I've been playing around with this all day. And have you played around with it? It's just they're like 5-year-olds, but they're but they just enjoy so much and they play. And then our kids are doing that all day until they fall asleep at night. And one of the boys here, AJ, he's 13, and he's developing airplanes and he's coding them. And his dad's, he's got his dad talking about, if we set up Lightning with Nostr, we can start the car and shit. And I'm just like, oh my God, I don't like crazy shit. And it's like the AJ's had that since he was 0. And so I said, what are you up to, AJ? Oh, I've managed to fit another world into Minecraft, and then I'm just going to access that, and I'm going to fly my planes and develop. I found a new way of developing a plane that I built with a 3D printer. And it's like listening to a 30-year-old expert engineer, and he's Inventor. 13.
Yeah.
And then, so if Lima, she has a business now. She's set up a dog walking. She's 8. We helped her set up the.
I helped her a little bit to explain how to do it. That's also how
she loves animals, and so she's got her first gig coming up, like paid, and so she has a dog walking thing at 8, and she's going to accept Bitcoin, and she has a wallet, and so she enjoys that, and through enjoying it, she's learning to read because she wants to, because she's like has to, like yeah. I always say this when you're learning balance, like if you put a rope on the ground and you practice balance, walking on a rope, you don't actually learn anything because there's no incentive to not fall, right? But when you put it above the ground, you have to. And the same goes if you go to school and someone says you have to learn that, You learn it to a point, but it doesn't go into your cells. But if my daughter's running a business and people are giving her money, she is learning
so many things. And she's learning things that we're not even aware of, because we have a very still, we were like this coming out of school, then we were here, now we're there, but still we have a big box around our head. And she is completely open. She sees things differently than we do. What goes on in her head, I have no idea. She just learns constantly. And the good thing is I don't need to be there like a teacher looking, okay, she's learning
lessons,
biology and maths and, science and social skills. I never take a note. In that moment when I see her doing something, I'm like, oh, amazing, I love it. School would be like this subject, but it doesn't matter.
There was a girl, you told me, and again, with all respect, someone was in the schooling system and they were showing you...
Just a picture?
Some pictures. And the teacher had written satisfactory. Sufficient.
Yeah, I was there. I told Rob.
Just imagine that.
I went to the home and she showed me really proudly, look what I did. She's 8 years old. So there was this picture that she had to color in. And look, I didn't draw outside the lines. I drew in, and it says here, I'm sufficient.
But her parents are very loving.
No. They totally understand. They praise us for what we do. They love what we do. And I love the whole family. It's like this, you can see the system in the detail of, don't draw out of the lines, don't step outside the lines, don't do anything outside the box. You have to rely on the teacher to tell you if you're sufficient or not. And then this unschooling boy came over. We looked after him in the afternoon, and he said, can you draw me a Lamborghini or something? I went to the print store. I printed him a car, and he colored it in. I need to show you. He drew absolutely outside the lines, but it looks like an artist did it. I absolutely love this drawing. When Rob's going to speak next, I'm going to look for it. I want you guys to see it, because there is this perfect picture of this girl drawing inside the lines, because that's what she was supposed to do. And usually kids like to do that anyway, whether they're told or not. And then on the other hand, there's this unschooled boy with this amazing picture of drawing something that he loves. He chose, he said, I want a Lamborghini.
think the conditioning is stay inside the lines.
Yes.
That's the...
It's so metaphorical in so many ways of just like stay inside the lines.
Yeah, it's kind of very sad and brutal to take your snuff. In a way, you're snuffing the life out. That the ability to go outside the lines. That's life. It's to find out what you enjoy and then do what you enjoy. And if that means you're a road sweeper, but then comes in the Bitcoin angle is with inflation. That is you can't live as a road sweeper. But that's why we Bitcoin is so that we can we're putting all our energy into this new system, which is fair for all.
Yeah, and one of the things you also mentioned earlier is just this dichotomy between learning because you have to versus learning because you want to. And this is something that so many people I know who went through the conventional educational system are realizing is, in myself included, a perfect example is just reading books. I mean, I did not like reading books back when I was a student because they make us do it.
Sure.
I think it's just so ingrained in our soul that when someone is saying like, you have to do this, we're going to give you a grade and say sufficient is, you're just, that word is so hilarious.
Well, you're forced.
Yeah.
It's forced. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got into spat on Twitter when someone was saying something. I said, well, you're forcing your children in school. They weren't forced. I said, ask them, do they want to get out of bed in the morning? Right. And,
my mom, last time she came over, we had this conversation because she is very worried about our girls ending up as cleaners because they're never going to learn how to read and write. And then I told her, like, I explained the problem with the schools, and I explained about my experience. And I said, I hated school from the first day till the last. I absolutely hated it. And she was like, really? Like, she never knew. It was just, get up, go to school. At some point, I didn't, say a word, just did as I was told, and had bad grades. But she never knew that I hated school. It was a total surprise to her. And yeah, this disconnect, like, we lived together. She sent me there every day, and she didn't know I hated it. And that's another thing I wanted to add to earlier, the amount of time we spend together as a family, the amount of love and attention they get from us, multiply that, or it's a compound effect. The freedom they get, the love they get, the attention they get, that is, compounding. If you then look at the kids when they're 18, 20, 30, and then you look at the kids who spend like 30 minutes a day with their parents, like really doing something together, because there is no time for them to really spend quality time together.
And the parents are exhausted.
Yes. Like after work, everybody's, tired and probably in a bad mood because they had a shit day at a place they didn't want to be. And then they spend 30 minutes together, and maybe they try to bond because they know I only have these 30 minutes. Now, after that, it's dinner and shower and bed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you want, Ben, do you have kids?
I don't know.
Okay.
Still single guy, but like always dreaming about it for sure.
You want your kids to be happy, right?
Absolutely.
Like, or would you want them to be a doctor, but not happy?
No, absolutely not.
It's and also when you're a father, Ben, and if you have a daughter, but even if you have a boy, right? You want them to get into a relationship that is the most important investment of their life, and them to be happy. And that we talk about fiat proofing or future proofing. We future proofing our kids. If the more connection we have with our kids and as a family is what they will have when they're older. It is as simple as that. So if you're always away from the family, if the father's always working, and you have a daughter, she will marry a man who is as disconnected. It's an inevitability. She may actually go, you know what, I'm going to choose a man who I think is going to be there. But it's an inevitability based on almost like a deep frequency. It's not woo-woo. It's just, I've seen it for decades. You will always attract the amount of disconnect that you experienced as a child. So I think that's another thing. Maybe it's a side of unschooling is we are with our children all the time, and we really enjoy it. And some people say, I don't know how you do it, but that's usually someone who had a disconnected childhood themselves.
Yeah.
And
if you don't want to be with your kids, like
there's something wrong.
There's something wrong. And I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I'm saying that the parents, if you don't want to be with your kids, you have to do that work.
Yeah, there's trauma. There is a wound inside.
Yeah.
Because it's not normal not to want to be.
Yeah, you're not free.
Yeah, that's why that's another aspect of a place to be, that the parents look within. They work on this conditioning and the beliefs.
We don't push that.
Nothing is forced at a place to be.
I'm just saying it's with
I talk about it a lot.
Yeah, talk about it. And if you're a Bitcoiner, proof of work and taking responsibility for your own keys to be free and sovereign. And so, but then if you really look, you're going to see that your behavior controls you. And so if you want to be free and you want your kids to be free, that's the red pill to the orange pill, right? So we bring it up. It's not we just, that's what we do. We want to be free. And so there are Bitcoiners who are not free. So I think,
But if I, imagine our children growing up in a community where they're mainly Bitcoiners, mainly unschoolers, freedom-minded people, that it's going to condition them as well. So, of course, and yeah, they're choosing these kids as well. But of course, I prefer them being surrounded by those people than lots of Fiat people. That's another reason why we don't send them to school. I saw this video the other day. I couldn't find it again. A guy was interviewed and he said, I don't want my children to socialize. And the guy said, you don't? I said, no, I don't want them to socialize with these effing idiots. And he had a point, because if your child spends most of their time with Fiat children of Fiat teachers and Fiat parents, then it's gonna be so much harder to have them to be free thinkers and questioning than having them unschooled.
And that's an important thing for like current and future parents to understand, is that this has to be the most common a point that you hear from the skeptics, to say, oh, like, if we take our kids out of school, then they won't have any friends. That's where all the people are. That's how they like meet people and make all these friends. But like you said, it's important to understand what those people are all indoctrinated with, and what track they are going to be pushing your child toward just by being around them and being associated with them. And it's unfortunate reality that we have to really think about, what is the upbringing of most kids right now? What is the design of the curriculums in school right now? These things are all negative forces. So just the fact that there are human bodies there for your child to, talk to, doesn't mean it's going to be a positive overall experience for them. And this is why you guys have a great blending of not doing this, quote unquote homeschooling, where it's just like you're in a house and you kind of have it more private. You have like an open community of all these families doing this together. So you're getting the best of both worlds, the social aspect and the more ability to control aspect, which you mentioned that you guys are always around, but it's also an important distinction that you're not around there, like you said earlier, to like tell them what to do. You're acting more as a guardrail and maybe like just a support role to like help them achieve these things that they naturally come to want to do.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. Like the less you interfere, the more they learn and the better they become problem solvers. You don't have to tell them all the time, this works like that and that works like this. Like for 8 years, I've been reading about unschooling and learning and psychology and gentle parenting. And there are so many studies. One, for example, they gave the two groups of little babies, like let's say a year, 2 years old, or like under 2 years old. One group gave the child an object. The other group, they gave them the object and explained how it works. So the babies who got the object and were explained how it worked, they played with it like 10 seconds and they put it away. The kids who weren't told, what it's there for, how it works, they played with it like way longer and they found different things to do with it. So even if you think you're teaching your child something, look, this is how you open the bottle, or look, this is how this works. You might think, good, I taught my child how to do this and now my child knows something else, like tick it off the box. But no, you're limiting the learning potential when you telling them something. So I'm always there, but I'm never interfering unless they call me, because like my kids, they argue with their friends. They sometimes argue with other adults, like other older kids or adults. And unless they call me over or I see really like, okay, they need a little bit of help now, I'm not moving. Like they work out their problems by themselves. And sometimes they scream and sometimes they say, I'm not your best friend anymore, or I hate you or something. It's fine. Then they go back together and then they work it out every time.
These are what we're kind of skimming over. There's real depth in that. Like when you see it play out, the kids are, and then you see a helicopter parent come in, it comes in and they problem solve it for them. If you step back, and sometimes I'm going in, and then you will be like, don't go in, and I watch and they resolve it, and then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't have to do anything, and they resolved it themselves. So there's real nuance in there, because these are small things you don't think are important, but they accumulate over time. The other thing, socializing, if you force kids together, you're forcing them to, it's almost like a type of like a desocializing skill. It's, you have to get by, and there's bullies and bitchiness and this, all the trauma that sort of plays out through the parents comes into the kids. And so our daughter loves listening to Roald Dahl, Famous Five, or the Secret Seven, or she listens to a lot of books. And there's always a bitchy girls fighting, and then there's a bully, and the teachers are nasty. I'm like, where is this reality? But it's school. I had it. I was a bit of a jock, so I got by. I was more, I suppose, on the bully side. And then there was a kid at the front who, couldn't fit in, and it was horrendous for them. And so you put your kids through this, you survive it, and you survive it with all these these sort of conflict manipulating skills, and they come out the other end, and you have that conditioned human for that system, and that system plays out. But if you don't put them in the kids in there, you have this kid that is absolutely remarkable. They don't bitch and fight. They all get on, all age groups, because they're never segregated until you put a kid in from school. And then you see them, they'll go, don't talk to her. Yeah, I don't want to play with her. Don't talk to her. And you get this sort of polluting aspect to this natural balance. Like Caesar Milan, when he has his dogs, right? You put them all together and they manage things out as a group. And then you add the traumatized dog in, and they sort of make it sort of balance it out, right? So that's what we found. And just on the other thing I was going to say with the learning, with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I was finding that with the class I went to, the teacher, who's a lovely guy and passionate and caring, he would say, okay, we're going to do this move. And then he explains it. Do you do this, and then this, and then this, and then this? Now you copy. And so there's this memorization that you have to do. And there's no problem solving. And we get to the end of the class after he's added another couple of really complex moves, and everyone's looking at each other, and then they do what they've always done, which is just the move. Like, they have two moves that they do, and everyone just fights. But if you look at, say, what's the
John Danaher?
No, no, definitely not him. There's this guy that does. It's called something like organic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There's a word, it'll come to me, but what he'll do is he'll put you in a position in Jiu-Jitsu and then go, okay, these are the sort of rules. You've got to try and put your elbows on the floor, and the other person's got to stop you. And you're playing, and it's exhausting, but you're actually learning that you have to put hooks under to stop them from putting their. So you're, through play and problem solving, it doesn't look like you're learning anything, but you learn everything. And that's how I learn now. And you can learn more in one session in months, right? Through rote, sort of like this memorization. That's the schooling thing. So when our children are playing, they're learning everything because they're enjoying it and they're using all their senses.
Yeah. Whenever I see them, whatever they do, I always think they're learning.
Yeah. Ecological.
Like, whatever they're doing, whether they're playing together on their own, if they're having arguments, if they have to deal with a problem, I always think they're learning. All good. I don't need to do anything.
So we really, it's easy. We don't do anything.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that sounds. It's like stacking. It like just stack sats. So we just allow, and then people are like, yeah, but don't they have to learn?
Yes. And when do you sit down with them, and how do you teach this, and how to deal with that? And I'm just there doing my thing, and sometimes we're doing it together. Sometimes they come with me. Sometimes they stay with Rob. Sometimes they stay with their friends. Sometimes, it's just, I just know they're learning whatever they're doing because no one's there telling them, do this now or don't do that. And I'm learning a lot from them. Like, Lima, she likes to say, she likes to ask, can I do this? Can I do that? And sometimes she asks me, can you ask him? Because they don't only speak Portuguese and she doesn't speak Portuguese yet. Can you ask him if we can do this? We go into the dog shelter, for example, once a week to walk the shelter dogs and play with the cats, or to a park where there are other animals. And then she asked me, can you ask him if I can go in with the dog? And she has lots of questions. And I'm so programmed to don't even ask. I'm so embarrassed just of thinking of going there and asking him, and he's going to give me a look and say, of course not. What are you thinking, lady? And I go there, and every time they say yes. And now when she knows this person speaks English, or she tries out a bit of Portuguese, she asks him, can I do this? Can I do this? And 99% of the time, the people say yes, where I'm thinking, they're never going to say yes. So whenever she asks me, I feel uncomfortable. I just look at this feeling, this discomfort, to, go through it and then just let it go, to let go forever at some point. And then I just ask the person. And again, most of the time they say yes. That's what I'm learning. Just
or
ask.
the kids,
if you don't ask, you don't
or
get.
they use AI. They can use AI a lot. So they ask
questions.
Yeah. So that's also useful.
I'd love to touch more on the subject of these fighting classes. Like you talked about, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is big over there. And I've personally been just getting much more into the MMA and UFC interest, just watching it on TV, taking some boxing classes when I was in Argentina. And the more I spend time watching it and doing it, the more I think that this is a really great skill that everyone should be looking to do, learn some sort of fight skills. And I'd love to hear your take on that, specifically for younger folks and kids, how you've seen that. You already mentioned how it's just a great brain exercise at the very least. It makes you think about all these things. And it's great physical exercise, obviously. But how have you seen that change children and how they operate and view the world?
It's a great question. I have to be, with our kids, we never force them to do anything. So we'll say, hey, do you want to go and do the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class? No. So whenever we say to Lima, do you want to learn this? No. And maybe the next day she'll learn it herself. She did that with swimming. Do you want me to teach her how to swim? No. Next day she swam. So kids are incredible. They don't like being told what to do.
Yeah, especially Lima. She's very much like, you try and teach her something. No, I didn't ask for that. Stop it.
She got that from you. And Ben, with the jiu-jitsu, so it's ecological coaching. Okay. And what I've noticed is when I'm rolling and playing with the kids, rough and tumble or whatever you want to call it, like they jump on me and Lima started to, she pretends she's a tiger or something. She starts biting me. So I'm like, holy shit. And she goes, you're not allowed to tickle me. Okay. And I'm not allowed to put a lock on her or choke her or anything. So she attacks me. And what the rules, it is like ecological, because all I can do is push her away. So what happens is I push her head and she spins. So I'm not teaching her anything. And I'm like, oh shit, I need to switch on now because she's going to bite me. And what I found, I block her foot and she spins in a full, what do you call it? Where her legs are over her head and she spins and she flips. And I'm like, oh shit. I said, where'd you learn that? She goes, and she's laughing. But she's been watching us do jiu-jitsu. She's absorbing it. It's natural. And so we're fighting. And what happens is I leverage something. She unlevers it. She's worked. I don't have to tell her. Maybe if she puts a lock on or something and she doesn't quite get it, I'll say, oh, have you noticed if you do that or this or this? And she, oh yeah. Oh. I'm like, oh my God, you really put it. And she's like, ah. So we don't force them, but if we're doing jiu-jitsu at home, they're around, they're watching, and then they jump in. But we're not doing it so that I'm not competitive dad. sometimes I go, oh, I wish I could. Oh, if she's so strong and good, I wish she'd be a champion. She could be pro one day. But then I watch my ego, because that's for me. Like, what if she doesn't ever do jiu-jitsu again? That's fine. It's whatever she wants. If I love her, I accept her. It's nothing. I'm not pushing or forcing her to do anything. But if she sees us doing jiu-jitsu, by the way, do I think it's good for women to learn jiu-jitsu? 100%. And speaking to, very good mixed martial artists, they would tell me, they say, start with some type of stand-up like kickboxing or Thai, because girls have very good capability with flexibility, so they can kick high, or they kick, and then they learn ground skills. But so I said, I was thinking just jiu-jitsu, and they're like, no, start with a base in stand-up control.
Yeah, I think there is, for us, it's the most important thing is freedom, for them, freedom to choose. So we don't push them to learn jiu-jitsu or anything else. And then once they choose something, it's play, as Rob says. Like the best way for anybody to learn is in a playful way. There has been this video going viral on Instagram and all on social media that it takes you like 300, 400 repetitions to learn something. But if you're having fun, it takes you like 5 minutes or like 15 minutes. So it's, when you enjoy something, you're fully in it. If you do it in a playful way, your whole body, your whole mind, your whole being is involved, and it's just becomes part of you. So of course, sometimes it can work. It depends on the person, because everybody is different. Everybody's learning style is different. Like with Bo, our little daughter, she's 5. She's very open to like sitting down and me explaining things and showing how to do it. Lima is like, no, I want to do it. Like, stop it. It depends on the person. They have to show an interest. For us, of course, you could come up with a playful way of teaching something that you can consider important. But again, if the game isn't right for them, if it's like Lima, she's been going to these workshops, sewing workshops or creative workshops, but she only went because her best friend was there. She was never interested in what they were doing. So now she said, I'm not going to go again. And, we're not going. It's, even though it can be fun and it's creative and very free, it's just kind of not worth it, the struggle, and she's not going to learn much there. And the sewing she did there, at some point she started doing it at home. She took all our clothes that had little holes and she started sewing them. Like this is her lesson that she came up with to sew.
But coming back to jiu-jitsu, self-defense and mixed martial arts.
Okay.
Because sewing, I would give them a knife in their belt, like hidden. That. Yeah, I'm going to buy you a belt. It's got little knives in. If there's a problem, but we teach with our 5-year-old, she bit. When she 8-year-old,
was like 3.
Yeah, or she bite her when she's really frustrated. I say, you only bite someone if you're really feeling in danger, and then you bite their nose off, or you bite into their neck, but only if you're in real danger and there's you feel your life is threatened, and then bite their nose off. I say, yeah, if you bite someone's nose off, they're not going to be interested in doing anything else.
It quickly kills the vibe.
Huh?
It quickly kills the vibe if you're trying to do something bad.
Yeah, and I was taught that in my martial arts sessions, and so as a father, I want my girls to be able to protect themselves. So I learn how to protect myself, and then they see that and they're absorbing it and learning it. And maybe at one point they come in and go, we've had it, right? Lima jumps on me and she's doing jiu-jitsu. Like it may not be called jiu-jitsu, she hasn't got a gi on, but she's trying to bite me and strangle me. She's got she's 8. I have to really watch my neck. She's straight onto my back. I'm having to spin, and we're laughing and playing. And so she does that for the next 10 years, if she got into it, she'll be a black belt and she'll be pro.
Yeah, and it's also another component of that is the person you do it with, because it's Rob, there's a connection and they have this thing that they do together. I have other things that I do with Lima or with Bo, and the same is with other kids. Like if we have friends, their boy, he's 8, and when we get together, I play football with him, but I only play football with him. I usually don't like football, but with him, it's just forth and back. It's a connection we have. So, if at some point she will find somebody she wants to do jiu-jitsu with, and, now it's Rob, which is great. I'm really happy about that because I would like her to know how to defend herself too. But there's zero pressure. It's all about this, somebody, a friend, like a relationship that you build with a person that you do something meaningful with.
Yeah, at a place to be, there'll be a tatami. And we already have Bitcoiners here. I have a guy who's a Bitcoiner, works for a Bitcoin company. He comes, we do this ecological training together. But at a place to be, which is not just a piece of land, it's a part of Madeira. It's 500,000 meters squared, which is huge for Madeira. In America, that's probably like someone's front lawn. But here it's massive, huge piece of land. And we'll have an open tatami where people can do whatever, yoga. But there will be, there's some Bitcoiners, coders like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a great way to connect. It's like being a kid again. You're rolling around, and if it's done in a very caring way, not ego, we're going to be having that as a community kind of coming together point. And if the kids want to do it, they can.
Yeah, I love it. And one of the things that I'm very secure hear your take about is you keep mentioning these things that you are learning as parents to just blow your mind about how these kids work and how their brains are changing based on the different situations you put them in. I would love to hear what are the things that you've seen and heard from parents and how it's changed these adults' lives, just watching this all take place, and how has it changed them?
Yeah, I hear a lot, like the children are a reflection of themselves, so ourselves, especially because you have been programming them from the moment they were born. And you can see what I hear a lot, when she does something, I see it's me, like I've kind of taught her that, or she's copied it. You learn a lot about yourself because you can kind of see yourself, like, what is she doing? Because that's all me. This is what.
And you don't know it when it's just you, but then when you actually physically see it, another person, you're like, oh crap,
yeah, and
that's exactly what I do.
Yeah, combat sports were revolutionized with the introduction of video recording. So you could see yourself, but also get tapes on your opponent to study their behavior. Right. And so when you give birth to a child that's has all of your conditioning, both sort of genetics, but the mind. And so the mind switches the genes on and off. So this just body mind, that whole conditioned thing. And then they're right in front of you and you get angry. Really, they're just reflecting back at what. So we've met a lot of people who have found that obviously it's difficult. But if you want to take you have to take responsibility for that.
Yeah, it's a lot. I see the way they speak to you, to others, to themselves is how you have been speaking to them, or, the close environment. I can see that when I'm very tired and frustrated and I lose my shit and I say something that's not so nice, the next day, like, it's almost guaranteed that one of my girls are going to say almost the same thing or react the same way to somebody nearby. And then I know I cannot say, don't talk like that, because it's me who started this, and I just have to look within and make it better from that moment on.
Yeah. Also, I think your question was alluding to what the other parents have seen is they can't believe. I think a lot of the people that we get in contact with are Bitcoiners. So they're already way down all these rabbit holes. So they're very much aware, or not always aware actually, of themselves, but aware of their kids. And they're like, oh my God, my kid is doing this. It's a different species. I think that was Pablo who originally said you're going to have different species. So we listen to them, and it's normal for us. So all the parents, it's like normal until you meet a kid who's in the schooling system, and then you're like, there's and physically, you kind of brought it up. I don't often think about that because I'm always surrounded by unschooling kids, but physically they're different. And then if you were to put that kid into my school or a UK school, the kid would be ostracized. It would be, I don't know how well, that would
or
be.
become the leader.
Or maybe become the leader. I don't know.
Like with AJ, we hear that a lot when he goes to summer camp in Poland. There's all of them are schooled kids, and he's the only unschooled, but he becomes the leader.
That's true. And Lima is the leader.
Yeah, Lima is often the leader. Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing. I don't know if there are any experiments on it, like a placebo double blind. Like you'd be able to pick the unschooled kid. It'd be too obvious.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have seen the movie Captain Fantastic, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, no, we had that as everyone said, oh, you should watch Captain.
You got to watch it. I don't think
we did. We'll watch it. Yeah.
It has so many perfect ties to what you're talking about here. It's basically about this guy that raises his kids out in the woods, and he's teaching them super, survival skills, and, and then they go into civilization. They go to, I can't remember, it's like some family friend or some just normal people house. And you can just see the difference between the conventionally schooled kids and his kids who are like much smarter, understand how the world works, and just operate much better. So you guys will get a lot out of that movie, I think.
We will. It's a bit taboo, isn't it? I think anyone listening to this conversation, especially, it's uncomfortable talking about that system because it's children that are the victims, and it's getting worse. And so we're talking about it, and we're going, look, we love them, we don't judge them or anything, but you have to talk about the difference. But it's kind of something I don't think you would ever hear talked about in the UK. The government's not going to do a survey on, are unschooling kids more advanced than schooled kids. And I just think the thing that will never be talked about is the conditioning of that sort of trauma, bullying, that socializing. I think that's really harmful, and it extinguishes the genius of the kid by the time they're 18,
Yeah. And it really is getting worse. Like I remember, so you talked about how your education, you were sort of a jock, so it was relatively easier for you. And myself also, I grew up in a pretty homogenous white farm town, very lovely, very high trust, no bullying. Everyone was cool with each other. So I had a great time relatively to like other stories I hear about. I had lots of friends, went off to a really nice college, had a great time there as well, made lots of friends. So when I look at my experience, it was definitely on this further along the good experience spectrum versus the average. But I still look back and think like, what if I just, if I would have been raised in this unschooling model, I would be far further right now. Like you have to compare the two, even if you had a good time, like what would my brain and body be like if I would have had this different track?
But that's a great point, Ben. What you just said there is actually what everyone says. They look back at one moment, they go, oh my God, who would I be if I'd had that experience? And it's usually quite emotional, right? Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of people say,
me too, whenever I think about it.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that. Like, who would I be without that? And I think it's when you can say that, then you can't go school again.
Yeah. And for me, it's not so much about saying we're better than them. Like, I don't think anybody's better or worse as a human being. It's more about the emotional, mental, physical health aspects that come with the system and without it. that the connection with the family, you know, emotional health, and no bullying, or like next to no bullying, and if so, you learn from it, and that's psychological health, and you know, being out all day and moving your body all day as much as you like, the physical health that comes with unschooling and the freedom. It's just so much healthier. I'm not saying we're better, I think we're healthier.
Yeah, you're trained to put up with bullying. You can't really get away from it.
No, and again, there's like foundation, the principles of the system are effed, and then here somewhere on top of it is the bullying, and then they come up with these little solutions. If they just, you know...
Yeah, they won't. We have to come up with a new system.
Just go away from there and do unschooling and, you know, clean yourself from the inside. And that's how everything will fall into place. Take away a lot of all these things that are stacked on the system and the solutions, because it just doesn't work. It's like putting a little plaster on like a million cuts on your body, and somebody continues to cut you all the time. Just go away and take your kids out of school now. I watched another great video the other day where somebody said, take your kids out of school now. Like, it's if the stable's on fire, you're not going to think, where am I going to put the horses? You know, just take the horses out and then you'll see. And we're the best example of not needing any curriculum. Of course, I don't have a job where I go to. Rob works like 2 to 4 hours a day from home. We have this freedom. We have created this lifestyle. Of course, if both parents are working, they need to find a solution, and depending also on the age of the children, because if they're really tiny, they can't just have them, you know, running around in the park by themselves when they're 3, or even at home. But there's always a way, and I think it's really important. And
there'll be a video in 10 years' time where's this kid now, and our children will be like bank robbers. And they'll be like, you shouldn't have trusted them.
Yeah, and this idea of just like how safe your community and your environment is so important, because we keep talking about how such a huge part of this model that you're championing is how just giving them the space and the freedom to do what they want. And no one of any age can exercise freedom and exploring these ideas if they don't feel safe and secure. So like having a safe location that you live, this is why it's so important for parents to like think about that. And it looks like Madeira is a great place right now. I know Bitcoiners are always talking about, you know, where are the best places for people to be for this stuff, but I mean, all parents should think about that.
Yeah, Madeira has lots of water. Like if we go like to the extreme, looking at possibilities, we have water. We will have cattle.
At a place to be.
At a place to be, and we'll have horses. We'll do horse therapy as a business. We have a farmer, an organic farmer. But I'm looking at the cattle ranching now. We've got a Bitcoiner who's going to come in and probably run that, because I'm a noob. Yeah, awesome. And the kids will be around that. Obviously, there will be electric fences, and you'll Fafo, the kid might go, oh look, the boy will go, what happens if I check, find out, right?
A quick lesson to learn. It shouldn't, you won't have to learn multiple times.
No. And Madeira is extremely safe. Do you get, there's tiny, like it's in the newspaper if a car window's broken and someone stole something. And the locals are like, oh, the society's breaking down. But you, compared to mainland Europe, it's a little paradise. Then we have a whole valley and there's one road in. I have a friend who is ex-special forces who'll be coming over to teach survival, and he would recce the land and do a proposal so that we have like a checkpoint. Even though we don't have to, I'm just talking. What ifs? We have water, we have a spring, so we have huge amounts of water. We'll be self-sufficient, and because it's a tiny little island, you don't get any boats able to come over. The Chinese army would be able to if it wanted to, but they could come. There's nothing here, and so I deemed it as a good place to come to with Europe as it is. Possible Europe, if there's a possibility that it actually collapses, it's semi-autonomous. So yeah, it will be affected, but I think the tourism thing is always good. And then we have this circular economy that's building in Bitcoin. And so hopefully by the time that happens, then everything will be could buy everything through Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more details on that, because I can't remember if I mentioned this earlier, but I am in Costa Rica right now, and there's tons of places you can buy stuff with Bitcoin. After this podcast is done, I'm going to go probably load up on some more ground beef, and I can buy it with the sats that I stacked on Nostr by posting memes and getting zaps. And I'd love to bring Nostr back up a little bit later as well, because we barely touched on that. But what is the circular economy looking like over there right now? What's the current status? I know that Andre Losha, like you mentioned, has been really pushing this for a long time.
Yeah, we've got about 120 plus businesses that take. We have pharmacies. We have a lot of cafes, bakeries, like the two main chains. We have the main chain was Andre knew the guy, and they came on board with Bitcoin. And then our local Peña Dagia down the road, which is amazing bakery, coffee place. Because I kept asking, they actually said, "Oh, we're interested now because our competition's taking Bitcoin." So it's got to a point where there's this critical mass, and they're orange pilling themselves, the businesses. So we have within 100 meters, we have pharmacy, fishmongers,
ice cream,
organic ice cream, coffee, bakery, noodles.
Hairdresser, yeah. We're trying to constantly orange pill our organic farmer who brings our eggs and vegetables, and the butcher as well.
Yeah, the butcher's about to go.
Yeah.
He can't. He's hanging on by a thread.
Those meat boys. We need the meat guys all
that's
on Bitcoin.
The one. I haven't pushed it because he's a grass-fed butcher up the road, but he's. It's like he got a second flyer, and they don't usually go beyond that. And he gets it from the Azores, which is a set of islands nearby that have very high copper. I've checked the soil, mineral content of the soils. It's really undamaged. So we have the grass-fed beef is coming from very, very valuable soil. Like soil's really kept well. So there's a ton of restaurants, and it's growing very quickly. More and more people are seeing it, talking about it, asking about it. So we're in that sort of upward curve. We just Andre is hopefully getting a whole supermarket chain onboarded. So when that is the case, then you can the dentist.
Right, my dentist.
Yeah. Dentist. There's a load of other ones that I will probably go, oh, why didn't we mention that? But it's a very meat-centric diet here, beef. So when I first came here, I thought it would be fish and seafood. They do have good seafood. But then the taxi driver said, oh, no, Madeirans like beef. I was like, huh? So we get imported beef. There's a guy I met in Hong Kong recently that I orange pilled him. I sent him Bitcoin. He's a wealthy guy. He runs the beef markets in Hong Kong. And he said, if you ever wanted to set something up, that could be done. But I was thinking, why don't we set up our own cattle on the island, grass-fed cattle? And so that'll be something that'll be put into, maybe this year sometime, because we'll be able to move quicker on the animals than we're getting building permission for 25 homes, beautiful, like
we'll mix some wooden, just nice little
cabins.
Houses. Yeah, cabins. I want to build some hobbit houses for visitors, like grandparents and family members who come and stay for a while. But yeah, we have so many Bitcoiners coming, and they're loving it. And the more Bitcoiners there are, the more people will be orange pilled, because they're going to go into their shops, that they like to go in, and at some point they're going to orange pill.
Yeah, they always say, do you accept Bitcoin here?
Yeah.
That's all you have to say. That's all anyone has to say to help push the needle, because it just takes them hearing that enough times. And I've even heard people, like when I was in Buenos Aires, Argentina, I heard some great tips from their meetup crew there. They actually are very meticulous in how they schedule out a different person goes there each time.
Oh, really?
Hey, do you accept Bitcoin? Do you accept Bitcoin? To just continue nudging them and sort of give that illusion that lots and lots of people are asking for this. It's a good tool.
We have a poncha bar. It's this sort of alcoholic drink here that all the Bitcoiners go to, that's up the road from here. But I was talking with we sent a guy, Charlie, he's an amazing Venezuelan guy, to on board and set up Swiss Pay.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something interesting. He's a smart guy. He was saying, I think you're going to get a big company come in and just just come in and dominate the market. Because, Swiss Pay, we're kind of forcing someone. But we're asking, can I pay in Bitcoin? And then people say, so it's not like you're forcing them to take it. You're just saying, can we pay in Bitcoin? We would like to. And then they say yes or no, like the fishmonger, and we pay. But he thinks he's just waiting for a big company to come in, and they'll have actual people paid that go in, and they, like a marketing, like BlackRock, who now they've got all their people orange pilling, I suppose. So he just thinks someone's going to come in and it's just going to go bang. All businesses will accept Bitcoin. But
it certainly feels like we're starting to nudge up to that S-curve moment where it's just becoming more and more ubiquitous, and it's going to be good news for everybody. Some just don't know it
Absolutely.
yet. You need to keep me updated.
The mechanic was orange pilled yesterday. Yeah,
very nice. There we go.
Oh, we do yoga in the park, which is...
yoga with Bitcoin. I buy kombucha in Bitcoin. Friends Beautiful. As well. The nanny.
Yeah.
Bitcoin nannies here.
Bitcoin nannies.
Yeah, you'll have to keep me in the loop on the butcher progress, because that's a personal crusade close to my heart, is getting all these meat producers on it, because, as we talked about earlier, so many of these conventionally tracked kids are being pushed through, this ideology that meat is bad for you and to eat more vegan, more plants, so their brain doesn't ever end up functioning well. And so we know the government's going to come after all these meat producers and start cracking down harder and harder, as they already are everywhere right now. So we need to help them, get them detached from the fiat system, so we can have that good access to healthy food from people who care about the food they create.
Yeah, so, I mean,
it's a good point.
It is a very good point. And also it makes me even more bullish on getting a healthy bull and some cow, and having our own. I was talking with Max Hillebrand about it. He put me in touch with Untapped Growth. He's in a big, you'll have heard of him. And he told me to read Man, Cattle and Feld, which is like the Bitcoiners. He's a Bitcoiner. I don't think he is, but the way he's talking is amazing about raising cattle. And so I've read that, and then I got my friend who's a farmer originally, and he's reading it. So we're just putting it, and we could. Untapped Growth talks also about tokenizing almost having a community come in and paying for a bull or a cattle, and then get a percentage. So you bring the whole community into the beef ecosystem. And milk, if you're selling milk, they'll get sats back. So we're looking to go that way, and you don't need that much land based on this methodology to produce a lot of beef. So exciting.
Love it. Yeah, I think everyone who's really dialed into this stuff is dreaming of having their own beautiful group of cows out grazing on some grass, so you can just be the most sovereign you can possibly be. Love it. I got one last question here before we start bringing this home, and that is just around Nostr. We've had a couple of relevant conversations here early on. You mentioned how social media can be a positive or a huge negative depending on how it's used. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on Nostr now, because I know you guys have an account on there. I'm not sure how active you are on it, but this idea of having social media that isn't connected to this fiat agenda, and how you think that could be bullish for kids and children and young people in general, just using social media. And if you think that this could be a good catalyst to social media becoming a tool for positive growth and building businesses and learning and becoming better, rather than just sucking your life away and doom scrolling on a bunch of fear porn and negative stimuli.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, my daughter and her friend are just, or like, I'm just going to talk about my daughter now, Lima, with the dog walking business. That's what I'm trying to teach to use it. She's mainly on Instagram because her clients are people who live around here. I haven't seen many Bitcoiners with dogs, to be honest. They're more on like
Ethereum owners. They're like little fluffy things that they carry. Seriously, though, they are all coiners, I'm sure.
So for her business right now, I think it's best to stick to Instagram because that's what the people around here are using. We have set up a Nostr account for her, but because of the wallet, so she can accept Bitcoin. So we need to get into, how to post, how to use it best. I think generally, like later, it's better to go the Nostr way to support that system because, if you need Instagram, like one of the fiat social media systems for your business, I think that's okay. But I personally, I don't like to be on there. I do maybe 5 minutes a day of Instagram to look for really good content, download it and share it. And that's it. I don't spend much time there. And Nostr as well, I'm on and off for a place to be. I use it to, spread the word and stuff. But if I could, I would not use social media at all, whichever. I don't like spending time on a screen. For kids, as I said, that's my way, just from the beginning. Don't let them get used to binge watching lots of reels, no matter where. You probably find better content and healthier content on Nostr than on all the other platforms. But I think it's important to learn how to use social media, especially YouTube, where it's like a university. You can learn anything if you use it for this.
Yeah, it's they're little children. They're 8 and 5. So if you just give them an iPad and you're not watching what you're doing, that's very, very irresponsible and damaging. So there's a reason why the movie Social Network, or the one which is the documentary, and all the owners saying, we don't let our kids have screens, is damning.
The Social Dilemma, I think it's
Social
called.
Dilemma, yeah. I'm not shameful, I don't like to use that word, but it's pretty sad that they've done that, and now they're farming. Really, it's farming, right? We're the cattle, and they do those scrolling things, and it's super addictive. And so I don't use social media much. I weaning myself off Twitter because it's brutal. But I'm full time now, Nostr. So I made the decision, even though I'll lose client or lose money, clients type thing. But if I'm serious taking responsibility for freedom and all my work's about that, then I need to be on a platform that reflects that. And so I put all my energy into my Nostr account, and I'm still getting used to Nostr. Sometimes it's a bit lonely, but I realize it's early doors. I can choose my relays, I believe, and curate. I don't want to spend too much time on screens. So, I get sats for my content, and it's amazing. You know that Nicolas Cage Air Force One meme where he's like, whenever anyone saps me, even if it's a tiny amount, it is very humbling. And if I do a video and I get 21 sats, I am like buzzing, because that is that is,
it's real.
Bitcoin.
Like the exact amount is irrelevant. You're getting real value for the content you're creating.
And people are valuing it. If I do something it's not valuable, I don't get any value. So it incentivizes you to do the best you can and not to put shit out. Not, I'll do the odd GM, but that's the kind of connection community, and you're not expecting to get zapped unless you're one of the, Gigi, I don't want to say where he is, but, you get, but that's also cool, right? There's the community on that. So,
yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to add, because for me, with unschooling and the way I parent is I never wanted to reward or punish. I'm going to say too much, because sometimes I do reward and sometimes I do punish when I have a weak moment. But a reward is never like money or, a hug when there's an amazing moment, because I always knew I want my children to do what they do because they enjoy it, not because I'm going to say, wow, you're so great, or here you got money, or here's a gift. They get their pocket money and they have to deal with it. I'm not buying them anything that they don't need. They have their pocket money for that type of thing. So, and now on social media, I could see, like, we opened the account, they put like 2 posts out, one in presenting themselves, introducing themselves, and another one filming how they were walking the shelter dogs. And it was this, can we look, how many likes do we have?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, this is reward. This is the dopamine. This is the drug in this.
Yeah.
Like, can we see how many likes we have?
Likes.
And we had to talk about it. Like, no, we're not going to check this out. You're not doing this for the likes. You want customers. I'm going to let you know if somebody messages. I'm going to let you know if somebody calls me and wants you to hire you. But we're not getting into this. This is the drug about it.
It's
and
that
we
like.
talk about
it's the
like. It's this
status.
Can you see how many people? Wow, we have 30 likes and
validation. But coming back to what you said, Ben, about the Sats, is it sort of calibrates value. It's a system, so you're doing it because it's valuable. If you're putting content out there, why am I putting stuff out there? Am I trying to get attention, or is it because I feel that there's something of value that can be valuable to others? And so that's why Nostr hits the mark. And Twitter, it's about how offensive or like conflict generating. And Instagram is oh, look how great I am. So it's pride, Twitter's status, so.
Yeah, I think my girls that would do this without getting paid for it, because they're in the dog park every day, playing with them and picking them up and, asking, can I walk your dog around the park? And I think it was Lima's way to get more, like, get to walk the dogs that she finds really cute. Like, okay, I'm going to open a dog walking business, and it's not so much about the money. And that's what I like. We don't want them to do things for the money. That's why I don't pay them to do things around the house. Like, they have to do their beds. They have to bring their plates into the kitchen. They have to tidy their stuff, because we're a family and I'm not their maid. So, this is, the way for her to get to walk the dogs by having this business, and she's going to get paid for it. But when this lady, the first customer, messaged me and said, can Lima and can the girls look after the dogs for a week? They're like, yeah. They didn't even ask how much they're going to pay us. It was just, yes, of course. And that's the way,
enjoyment.
Yes. Enjoyment. Like, whatever you do it, whether you get paid for it or not, the money will come.
Yeah. And just to sort of round that out, you guys mentioned Pablo earlier, and he's an awesome guy, one of the best Nostr follows out there. And I think one of I believe he posted this, how for his general guideline for raising kids is no screens at all for as long as you can, like 10 years old most of the time. But for certain exceptions, like your daughter wants to start a business. Yeah. And like for that, Instagram's a great tool. Like, it's good to have these sort of general ideas that just the less screens, the better, especially on those super early days. It breaks my heart when I see just babies in strollers with iPads in front of their face, just roasting their corneas. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And we need just less parents doing that, more parents taking responsibility and not taking that easy road of just pacifying their kids with technology. It's very unhealthy. And I am hopeful, though. We'll see 2 years from now when your daughter hits that 10 years mark. I mean, Nostr should be really rolling by then, I think. So it's going to be really exciting to see how this continues to flourish and changes the social media landscape to be more so toward value providers and less about junk. And
100%.
it'll be very interesting to watch for sure.
Yeah.
So, man, we've talked about so much awesome stuff today, guys. I think we could finally start wrapping it up here. And
That's flown by.
Yeah, seriously, it just cruised. Super awesome conversation. I guess a good way to end this would be what the parents. How should we say this? What would be your message to the current and aspiring parents out there who are thinking about how they're going to be raising their kids and their families, and they, like we mentioned before, they might be scared of it. It sounds like a big, crazy leap. They might be, in a country like Sylvia. Are you from Germany? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, places like Germany, it's illegal to homeschool, right? Like you can't. Like there's all these crazy rules everywhere. It just seems like a large jump to make for parents to be able to even do this. So, what is your message to the parents out there, current and aspiring, who are in these different situations? It seems like there's a lot of obstacles. And what do you recommend to them, and how a place to be can be a potential solution? Big questions, but good final one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think every parent would agree that nobody loves you as much as your children, and you don't love anybody the way you love your children. So they're the most important people in your life. And what do you want for them? Just the best. Everybody would just, happy and the best. Now, I would recommend for anybody to not send their kids to school unless it's like a very nice free democratic school where they don't even have to go every day, like as free as possible, as unschooling like as possible. Then if you make it your priority, you will find a way, and there's always a way. And especially nowadays, it can be quite easy.
Except if you're in Germany.
More like, it's just priorities. What's more important? What's keeping you there? I don't know. It's like, you might have family and friends, and you might have a job or something, and a house and stuff. But what's more important? Like the other day, Rob has a brand new iPad, and he gave it to the girls, and there was a scratch on there, and Rob freaked out. And I said, Rob, what's more important, a scratch or Lima? And he gave it back to her, and it was fine. Nothing is more important than your children and their well-being and their future. And if you're a little bit open, if you're watching this, you are open-minded, do as much research as you can, then there is no way you're going to send your kids to school. Yeah. If you start doing the research and go down the rabbit hole, there's no way. And there are many possibilities that you cannot see at the moment because you might be stuck in the old ways. But there are so many ways. A place to be is not a new invention of something. It's not unique. It's maybe in its way, but it's all over the world are people doing something like this or something similar. So if you have community, then it's like 80% of it is done. You have places or like community people who will be with your kids. And you put them in a healthy environment. So that would be like the first step, finding a community somewhere. I don't know.
Get off zero. I could use loads of Bitcoin in that. It's like, do your 100 hours. Like spend, what's Michael Saylor where he says, just do 10 hours, 100 hours, because you're going to spend the rest of your life, that type of analogy. So when it comes to, our kids, it's when you've done the work. So everyone's an uneducated unschooler. But if you educate yourself, I've been there. I was on the other side, and Sylvia started talking about it, and I just started reading and thinking about it. And then I'm at the point now, I would never send my kids to school. Like, it is start off, get off zero is starting to read about it at least. And then you'll find a way. But it's just like Bitcoin. Once you learn enough, you go full. You're full. You're maxi. You're fully into it. And it's the same with unschooling. It's just you don't realize it yet. And the damage that the centralized fiat system is doing is everywhere, and it's brutal. And we need a new system. The same goes for unschooling. It's just the green pill to the orange pill. It is as important. And that schooling system, it really goes to the heart of a human being and the rest of their life. You either condition them or you uncondition them, 1 and 0.
And you can do whatever you want as long as you don't harm anyone. So you don't have to send your kids to school. You don't have to follow curriculum. You don't have to. There's so many things that you think you have to do, you should do, but no, you don't.
Yeah, you don't have to teach them.
No.
They will learn.
Yes.
Just get out of their way and let them
just get out of their way.
Exactly.
Yeah, just make sure it's like burgers. Just make sure they don't burn.
Yes,
just let them cook.
My life, like motherhood for me is just keep them from killing themselves, getting killed. The rest is let them fall, let them climb, let them cut themselves, let them, try out, scream,
bite their father, strangle him.
As long as you don't harm anyone.
Yes, as long as you don't kill me.
Yeah, get out of the way of your children, and especially don't put them into school, because that is a huge block in front of your children.
And quickly becoming literal child abuse, like the more fiat it goes, and the more more it moves away from useless information to actually like harmful wrong information.
It is harmful.
Affects them negatively.
I was once told by someone who said, if I homeschool our kids, it's child abuse, and he'd never speak to me again. So it's child abuse homeschooling. So going to school is, and that person, it's just, no, it is. I don't want to get that as a soundbite. School is abusive, but to a certain degree,
abusive. It's
I definitely think it is.
Has been.
It's retarded,
because hardly any child wants to go there. There's the abuse. Then there's
the kids that want to go to the school are the ones that are good at memorization. They go at the front, they get the reward, and it's dopamine. Then they're the kids that like playing, sport and the recess, but
it's still damaging. Even if they're good at school, it's still damaging.
Yeah.
Like, to undo the damage, it just takes too much time. It's not worth it.
And sometimes the damage, like I mentioned with my story, isn't, direct and felt in the moment. It's sometimes felt later as in the sense that you lost opportunities. So these are all things that parents need to think about. You mentioned this rabbit hole of just alternative education. What are some resources you'd recommend people check out? I know that there's some books that Daniel Prince recommends a lot. He's really into this stuff as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Yeah, amazing. Where do you recommend people start to learn more about this?
Well,
other than your website, of course. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
Yeah, on the website it says there are 2 books. One is Free to Learn by Peter Green, or what's there? Peter Gray. Peter Gray. And then it's The Continuum Concept by Gene Liedhoff. Because the Free to Learn wraps everything up nicely. It's a long book. I've listened to the audiobook. It was long, but it just has everything in it. And if people listen to it or read it, they're just going to continue that way. And the Liedhoff book is is more about the, how we're supposed to live and learn in a community. And like she describes how the South American tribes live together and raise their children. And of course, we're not living in the jungle here, but she talks about the foundation of a human being. So it's not so much about unschooling, which, people think starts when they're 6. It's unschooling is the whole life from 0 until you die. Unschooling is living without school. It's not just from 6 onwards.
Yeah, living without school.
Yes, unschooling is living without school. Yeah. So these are the 2 books that I recommend. And but there is what's his name?
Another one I know that Daniel Prince always recommends is the work of John Taylor Gatto.
Exactly.
I haven't read it myself, but I just pulled up his books here, and Dumbing Us Down and Weapons of Mass Instruction are like his 2 big books.
So they're very depressing. He says it as it is, but it's again, once you read it, then you would never send your kids to school. I also love John Holt because he came up with the term unschooling in the 70s.
I like the Summerhill, A.S. Neal. He's just incredible. Like 1940s, he set up a democratic school, as in the kids can go or not to school. And the book is remarkable. And there's bringing it back to when I said Lima can talk to an adult. There's a story in it quickly where the CEO of a manufacturing company heard that one of the apprentices was from Summerhill, and he called him up, a big company, and he wanted to see what this unschooled kid was like, this Summerhill school kid. And he walked in and he said, "Did you enjoy your school?" He said, "I loved it." And he said, to cut a long story short, he said, "Yeah, I can see that. And you're the first man he's an 18-year-old, the first person to ever walk into this office, look me in the eyes and shake my hand as an equal." It's like one of those hair up moments. So the child was truly himself, and the guy. And so what he's saying is everyone else comes in through an authoritarian system who bows down to authority. So that in itself is what A.S. Neal's an absolute legend. Yeah, 1940s ledge.
Wow. Yeah. So people have been talking about this for a long time. It's just been pushed out of our view because the government education system, their indoctrination track is very powerful. They have all the fiat money printer, resources they need to continue pushing people down their track that isn't good for anybody in this situation. So excited to have more awesome projects like your guys out there, and I'll include all the links to a place to be in the show notes. Rob and Sylvia, has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. I thank you so much for spending almost 2 hours talking about this extremely important topic. I really look forward to more people going down this rabbit hole and continuing to learn more. And thank you so much for your time. I look forward to being in touch.
Thanks so much, Ben.